Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Purity Afya Show, where women's health is reclaimed. I am your host, Purity Afya_Show, and I am so excited that you're here. Today we are joined by a seasoned gynecologist. Her name is Dr. Maureen Owiti, and we are going to talk about something very important. What are signs that your period are not normal and what is considered normal? Help me welcome our guest this hour. Thank you so much, Maureen, for being here.
Thank you so much, Purity. Always a pleasure being around you.
It had to be you starting us off. It just had to be you. But I am happy that you're starting with a conversation that not just older women, but also young girls, I'm on period. Every month we're saying I'm on period. And sometimes we are so fast to say that every woman is different, which is true. So every period should be different. Is this the case? Should this be the case that every period is different? And how much of a difference are we talking about?
I think the Bible tells us that we're all uniquely and beautifully made. Yeah. And I think it also goes with periods. So I think before we can say what's abnormal about a period, maybe we define what's normal about periods. Yeah. So we have, in terms of the duration of the flow, as in how many days is the young lady or woman getting her periods, and a normal cycle will be anything from 2 to 5 days. Some people even have a week. Obviously, by the time you're doing 10 days, there's definitely something wrong. But on average, most people have a cycle that's between 2 and 5 days long. Yeah. Then we have how regular is a cycle, and a cycle can be anything from 21 days, a normal cycle from 21 days up to 35 days. So we always hear that, I always laugh at my clients when they come in and they tell me their cycle is not regular. Yeah. And I always ask them, when it's not regular, what do you mean by it's not regular? They say, oh, it doesn't come on the 5th or the 6th every month. So I'm like, those are only people who have 30 or 31 day cycles who are always going to get their period on the 5th. So there are such people who we know that their period always comes on the 5th of the month. The rest of us, you'll find, like if we have the classical, I think when we're in primary school, we're all taught the menstrual cycle. And I think we're taught the classical 28-day cycle. Yeah. With the 28-day cycle, we know the calendar month, majority are 30-31 days. It means that with every subsequent month, your period is going to move forward. So let's just say you had your period on the 25th. It means a subsequent month. Most probably it's going to come on the 23rd. Like that. Then it's going to come on the 21st. It's just going to keep moving forward, keep coming forward every month. Then we have the lucky people, the ones who have periods only. They can have like 10 periods in a year because they have a 35-day cycle. Once you have a 35-day cycle, now they have the opposite. So we give the cycle, they had a period was say coming on the 10th of this month. Following month, they'll have it on the 17th. Like that. It'll just keep now pushing forward. So, and all those are normal cycles. And
it's just natural. There's nothing you can do to change it from 28-day cycle to the lucky 35 days cycle.
It also depends whether people how people appreciate their periods. But it's not to say that because you don't have a 28-day cycle, it's not normal. Any cycle that's 21 days, because like definitely you have some 21 days. Imagine that's every 3 weeks you have a period. If we divide 52 by 3, can you imagine how many periods that person is having? But again, God has a way of balancing. Maybe that person who has a 3-week cycle maybe only bleeds for 2 days.
Exactly.
I don't know. And then you have the people who maybe it's a 21-day cycle and they bleed for 7 days. And just like, oh my goodness. I always make a joke, and God forgive me, that when I get to heaven at St. Peter's Gate before Judgment Day, I'll always ask him, look, we were given the punishment of giving birth. Okay? Now, where did this period story come from? I really want to understand, because
I know.
also a number of us now have pain during the periods.
Yeah.
What we call the menstrual cramps.
Yeah.
So some mild discomfort or no discomfort, that would be normal. But severe pain would also not be necessarily be normal. So, and then the last aspect is how heavy is the flow. So normally you would expect, I think, majority of us who are able to afford menstrual products, the product that we use would normally be sanitary towels, or pads. And the normal flow in a 24-hour period, you'd expect you'd use 4 to 6 pads. Yet you have this person. Even the day has not ended. Morning, aliamuka at 6. By 6 p.m., she's already gone through a whole packet of pads. Obviously, that is definitely not normal. So those are just the aspects of the period. So it is the duration of the flow, the cyclicity, how long the cycle is, how heavy the flow is, and whether or not they have pain. So, and then based on that, we have the different issues with the periods. We used to have very many interesting terms, like we used to have something like menorrhagia. So that just means they have a heavy bleeding. Now they're using those 10 pads per day. But now you're just going to describe what the issue is and come up. And then you have other problems that can come with bleeding. So not necessarily, we're sticking to menstruation. We know that if you're having like just your 28-day cycle, you should not have bleeding in between. So that we now have what we call intermenstrual bleeding. But I think we're talking about menstruation. So maybe we just stick to
And you've mentioned a few, not really few, but the cycle, how the normal cycle should be like. There's someone who will just wake up and say, I think I have irregular or regular. So outside that types of cycle that you've described, now what would you say is an irregular cycle, and is it again normal, or someone should now seek help if you experience anything outside what you've just described?
Okay. So when you're talking about regularity, now that's when we say how frequently is she getting the period in a month. I think if you look at even interesting languages, it's always called the monthly moons. I think people have very interesting names on how they describe because we tend to follow the moon in terms of how we're getting our periods. So if you have somebody who's having less than 21 days, so you're having a period 18 days, 14 days, means every 2 weeks you're in period. That is obviously a very irregular cycle.
Does it say something about your health?
You must remember that we lose quite a significant amount of blood. We lose like a cup full of blood for the entire duration of the period. So it sounds a lot, but you try taking a cup and pouring on a pad. The pad is not going to be able to contain the blood from an entire cup. So so you can imagine every 2 weeks losing a whole cup of blood. So if depending on and that is if the flow, we're not talking about having heavy periods, we're just talking about how often. You can find that someone can even get anemia. That is when their blood levels are very, very low, just because they're losing blood more often than they should. So that is a frequent cycle. And then we have the other spectrum. And this is when women either don't get periods. So like we have women, they'll go like 2, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a whole year. No periods. You're like, wow, definitely that is something. So anything that is outside, we have said our normal cycle is between 21 to 35 days. So if it's less than 21 days, that is, we're going to call it irregular. And it's more than 35 days, again, we're going to call that an irregular cycle.
Sometimes when women are on contraceptives, they either have very light periods or stop having periods altogether. Is that normal? Because I see women talking and saying, since I started on this contraceptive, I've not had periods for this long, or I have period maybe twice or thrice after every 3 months, not the monthly not cycle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you have somebody who is on a contraceptive that is changing their cycle, they tend to be, maybe they're on a hormonal method, and it's going to be what we call a progestin only method. That is what is mostly associated with a change in the cycle, how the cycle is going. And when we're counseling for the contraceptives, we're always going to give them what the side effects are. So it's something that, if counseling was done properly, it's something that they could be expecting, that this may happen because of using the contraceptive. At that point, I would say it's normal, because there's something you're doing that's making your cycle not come the way it should. And it's expected to happen like that. However, if you're not taking any medication and your cycle is going 2-3 months, haijakuja, definitely there's a problem. And it would be good that you have a healthcare provider just check out exactly what's happening, so that we can help you. It can be silent signs, like there's several hormonal problems. Common problems are things like a thyroid problem. You have even issues with prolactin. So thyroid is a gland on our necks. And either direction, whether you're having low thyroid functions or high thyroid functions, it can affect how your cycle is going. And then you have prolactin. So prolactin is a gland somewhere, situated somewhere here between your eyes. It's called the pineal gland. And for that gland, that hormone is responsible for releasing milk when women have given birth. But if you have high prolactin levels, it can also affect how your cycle is flowing. So when you have an issue, it's good that you get it checked out, so that people are able also to establish, do you have another problem that we can also check out. In terms of irregular cycles, I think another very common thing is the polycystic ovarian syndrome. So in these patients, majority of them present that the people who say 2 months, 3 months, they don't get periods. And then when the period comes, it can be very long or very heavy, because the lining has stayed quite some time without being shed. So that's what tends to happen to those people. But the hallmark for those people is that they don't get periods. Again, something that would be good that someone understands that they have this problem, because they are all things that long term are going to have an effect. All of these things affect your various metabolism, can affect your sugar metabolism. And you find even people with high prolactin, high thyroid, tend to have things like high blood pressure, polycystic ovarian syndrome. You find when they are older, they need to be advised that they're at risk of getting high blood pressure. So these are all things that are good to understand about yourself, so that you can already start early and in advance to look after yourself, to also limit the impact these diseases are going to have on your body.
And finally, Doc, what advice would you give to a woman watching, but they know there's something off with their cycle, but again, they're not sure what to do about it?
Okay. May I believe there's such a thing? Just ask. And the best person to ask is obviously, in my opinion, a healthcare provider. And who better than somebody who has studied reproductive issues? So it's obviously us gynecologists. So I'd really encourage them. Just come in, have a visit. We're not as scary as people imagine.
Where can people find you?
Oh, me, I'm currently located at Gynecare at 𝗤𝗏, and we're on the 7th floor. And everyone's welcome for a visit.
All right, thank you so much. And it's been quite interesting. Personally, have learned that anything that's below 21 days for a cycle and above 35 days, it's not normal. So remember not to suffer in silence, just ask. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Purity Afya Show. Remember, this conversation continues every week right here. So if it has helped you in any way, remember to like, share, and comment. And I'll see you again next week, same place, same time. My name is Purity Afya Show. Bye bye for now.